Mhm.
Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining EU in ASEAN this afternoon for a chat with our ambassador, His Excellency Sujiro Seam. Thank you for everyone who has joined us on Instagram, on Facebook, and also right here on the Zoom platform. So we will start with some of you have sent in questions. So we have a question spot from Raffi Eka Pratama from Indonesia. The question is, how important is ASEAN to the EU, and what is the relationship between these two organizations? Do they really need each other? Over to you, Pas Sujiro.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Sujiro Seam. I'm the ambassador of the European Union to ASEAN. I started in this position 6 months ago on the 1st of September. And today is the first edition of this new program we have across our social media platforms, Ask the Ambassador. I'm very happy to be able to interact with you everywhere you are in the ASEAN member states, because this is a large region, and this is precisely the reason why it is important for the European Union. You know, people usually consider the European Union and ASEAN as the two most successful examples of regional integration in the world. So this is the reason why it is important that we work together, the European Union and ASEAN. Actually, the European Union and ASEAN have been dialogue partners since 1977. So we're now entering 47 years of dialogue partnership. Since 2020, the European Union and ASEAN are engaged in a strategic partnership. And on the 14th of December 2022, we had our first commemorative summit to celebrate 45 years of dialogue partnership between the European Union and ASEAN. So the reason why this partnership is important is because we represent collectively 37 countries, the 27 member states of the European Union and the 10 member states of ASEAN. And that's a lot of people, 450 million people in the European Union and 670 million people in ASEAN. Also, we have a joint interest. We have a joint interest in having more political engagement together. I'm just flying back from Brussels, where we had the 24th ASEAN European Union ministerial meeting, where our foreign ministers met. We also have an interest in having a stronger economic cooperation. The European Union is the third largest trading partner and also the third largest foreign direct investor for ASEAN, and it offers a lot of potential for growth, income, and jobs. And we also have an interest in sharing more people-people relation. So on the people-to-people relation that goes in particular through student exchange, through cultural exchanges, but also through our human rights dialogue, for example. So this is the reason why I would say this relationship is important, and it is recognized by both ASEAN and the European Union in the form of the strategic partnership.
Thank you, Pa. And then the second question is from the Philippines, from Bea. What is the purpose behind the EU's connection with ASEAN, and what benefits could the youth derive from these agreements?
So, the engagement of the European Union with the rest of the world is very rich and very diverse because the European Union is a global power. I mean, we are a very strong political entity. We are the largest and most profitable single market in the world, and our population is very much open to international exposure. So I think it's important that we continue this collaboration we have between the European Union and ASEAN. How can it benefit the youth? Well, I would argue that everything we do today is designed to benefit future generations. So among the top priorities of the European Union ASEAN strategic partnership right now, there is a very strong focus on economic issues, in particular, how we can work together better on the digital transition and on the green transition, but also how we can strengthen value chains. And that is precisely designed to offer better opportunities for the people, better opportunities for today, but also better opportunities for tomorrow.
Okay, and the next one, I would just like to remind all of you, you can also drop in your questions either in the Instagram directly, in the Instagram live, in the chat, or in the Zoom, or if you're watching from Facebook, then you can also ask your questions there, and then our team will collate it for the ambassador. And the next question is from Indonesia, Pa, from Vidya Larakinanti. Could you provide further insights into ASEAN's efforts in promoting culture within the EU? How can the youth actively participate in fostering cultural exchange between the two regions? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, there is, in my view, no such thing as a European Union culture. Of course, the European Union is very much integrated. We have a common flag, we have a common anthem, we have a common currency, but there is no such thing as a uniform or monolithic European culture. Actually, united in diversity is the motto of the European Union. And I think when it comes to culture, we very much insist on this diversity, the diversity of the different national cultures of our 27 member states. So we have this new approach from the European Union, which we call Team Europe. Team Europe, it's the European Union joining forces together with our 27 member states. And I think from the ASEAN side, we have to recognize that the situation is pretty similar. There is no such thing as a Southeast Asian culture. There are all the national or even the regional or local cultures of all the 10 ASEAN member states. So I think when it comes to cultural exchanges and cultural promotion or cultural cooperation, we really have to work together in the Team Europe or in the Team ASEAN approach, working together with our member states to make sure that we do promote the general approach of the European Union on culture, which again is united in diversity, but that we do justice to the diversity of the different cultures of all of our member states. I mean, when we have people traveling from Europe to Southeast Asia, they do not go to Southeast Asia as such. And it's the same for people traveling from Southeast Asia to Europe. They don't go to Europe as such. I mean, they want to go and see Paris or Berlin or Rome or Prague or Lisbon or, they want to go to a particular place. So I think when it comes to cultural exchanges, we have to be very much aware of this diversity and make the most of it, working together with all of our member states.
Yeah, thank you, Pa. Maybe you can also, can we also talk about the opportunities for youth that we are currently inviting ASEAN youth to participate, to apply for the Youth Sounding Board for EU and ASEAN?
Yes,
Can you talk
indeed.
a little bit?
So we have in place that structure, which is called the Youth Sounding Board. It was established to allow Brussels, the European Union, to interact with the youth and to consult them, get their opinions and their input on issues of importance, on their priorities for today and for the future. So this is a mechanism whereby worldwide we have 25 representatives of the youth from all the continents, from all the regions in the world, advising our colleagues in Brussels. Now we took the initiative to replicate that model in different parts of the world, and certainly within ASEAN, we are in the process of establishing, creating a youth sounding board for the European Union in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN. So the name will be WISEB. I think it has a nice ring to it. Youth Sounding Board for the European Union in ASEAN. So we are inviting applicants, interested young people from around ASEAN to apply for this inaugural session of the Youth Sounding Board. We will establish it initially for 2024-2025. The deadline for application is, I think, the 17th of March. So you still have time to apply. The requirement is that you have to be a citizen from one of the 10 member states of ASEAN plus Timor-Leste as a candidate country. You have to be young, which in our view is between the age of 18 and 25. And you have to show interest for the partnership between the European Union and ASEAN. So please consult our social media platform to get all the details, but apply to become one of the members of our Youth Sounding Board for the European Union in ASEAN.
Okay, Pat, we have a question from the Artifact Miner asking, how many languages do you speak?
Me, I'm a French career diplomat. So it means I'm French. So I speak French. And I only speak one language, which is French. Even when I speak other languages, I still pretend I speak French. So no, more seriously, I speak French, but of course I also speak English, which is a very common working language around the world. I learned Russian at school, so я еще говорю по-русски. I also speak Russian. And my wife is Chinese, so I learned a little bit of Mandarin so that I'm not totally clueless when I go and travel to China to visit her family.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question here again from Indonesia, from Amelia. She says, looking towards empowering the youth for the future, particularly in adapting to advancement in the technology industry, how can collaboration with relevant stakeholders be facilitated, and what strategies can be implemented to enhance the skill sets of youth?
So it has to do with three cross-cutting issues, which are one, the digital world and the digital transition, which is one of the top priorities of the European Union and of the European Union's engagement with ASEAN. It has to do with education and capacity building, and it has to do also with the focus we have on the youth. So when it comes to the digital partnership we have between the European Union and ASEAN, actually we have, I would say, three entry points to that. The first one is the dialogue we have between the European Union and ASEAN, in particular when it comes to trade and investment, as I mentioned, digital technologies, the adoption of digital technologies in the economy is one of the priorities we have. So it's a matter of exchanging ideas, best practices, experience. Then we have actually a work program. So not long ago, on the 2nd of February this year, digital ministers for the ASEAN met in Singapore. And on that occasion, they adopted the European Union ASEAN work plan for 2024 on digital matters. And this work plan very much focuses on capacity building, but also on exchange of practices and experience. And finally, the last thing, beyond the dialogue and the work plan we have, is made up of concrete projects we have in that particular area. So we had a project to strengthen the higher education systems in the ASEAN region, which focus very much on improving the quality of education provided in ASEAN. We have specific programs which focus on high technology, new technology. So, for example, we had a a joint program, a joint cooperation on high performance computing, which are computers for the future. And then we also recognize that because ASEAN is a very diverse group of countries, some of the countries in ASEAN are more prepared or more willing to work with us, in particular on digital matters. So, for example, we have this digital partnership agreement with Singapore. So I would invite everyone who is interested to have a look into our dialogue, into our work plan, and into our concrete projects.
But there's a question from Fet Tetodom. I am now a member of the Youth Sounding Board of the EU in Cambodia. Can I also apply for YSB?
The answer is yes. I mean, if you meet the eligibility criteria for the Youth Sounding Board in ASEAN, you can apply for the YSB, the Youth Sounding Board of the European Union in ASEAN. Of course, it's a competitive process, so we will select the best candidates. But by all means, please do apply.
There's another question from Vietnam, from Huyen Van Huy. Two questions from him. I have two questions for the ambassador. In your opinion, what will be the biggest challenge to the economy and cooperation between the EU and ASEAN in 2024? And what do young people need to learn, and what skills do we need to be able to adapt to the unexpected changes in the economic and political situation around the world?
So I think the biggest challenge we have ahead of us is the potential for disruption of the global economy, which originate from the political crisis we have around the world. So we know that we have this illegal war of aggression against Ukraine. We're actually approaching the 2-year mark for this illegal war of aggression of Russia against Ukraine. We know it contributed to disrupt the global economy, increasing the price of food, fertilizer, energy. So it has a negative impact on global growth, and certainly it is felt in the European Union, but it is also felt here in the ASEAN region. We also have, since the 7th of October, a very explosive situation in the Middle East. So the events unfolding between Gaza, Israel, the West Bank, the whole of the Middle East, because there is a risk of expansion of this conflict. We can see that there is now insecurity in the Red Sea as well. And this is the place, the Middle East, where most of our energy supply comes from for fossil fuels. So this also has the potential to disrupt in a very significant way the global economy, and certainly we can feel the risk and the negative impact of this crisis also in the European Union and ASEAN. So I would say that geopolitical uncertainty clouds the perspective for global growth in 2024. Of course, the European Union and ASEAN are both very resilient trading blocs and economic blocs. So I think the challenge for us is to make sure that we can resist and neutralize the negative impact of this crisis, which again can disrupt the global economy. And for the youth, I think the entry point is not the same. I mean, if you are young and now you're learning skills, and I have 2 sons myself who are at university, when I ask them where and what they want to study, the answer was, oh, I want to study in Sydney because it's a nice city, or I want to study in Australia because my girlfriend is in Australia. So I told them it's not about picking up a nice city or picking up a location where you have people you like. It's about really selecting a career plan for the future and making sure that you have the required skills to do that. So both of them actually chose a very different career plan. One of them is studying in Sydney in a Bachelor of Commerce with a focus on data analysis. So I think he understood the importance of analyzing data to do business in the future. And the other one chose to work on international relations at the university in Canberra. So there is no one size fits all. It depends on what you like to do, and it depends on your assessment of what would be useful to pursue your career in the future.
Okay, so we have another. I would like to invite like Prey Son 2 from Arakan, Myanmar. Would you like to ask your question directly to the ambassador? Prey, would you
Okay.
like to
Yes,
ask? Yeah, okay.
yes, I'd like to ask.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, my name is Preston and I'm from Arakan, Myanmar. So, as you know, our country has been in turmoil, much worse after the military takeover, right? You also know. So the hope and opportunity for our youth community has been in really, really great danger right now, especially the announcement of the military draft, the conscription, and also the revolutionary resistance has also been at its peak. So in history. So my question is, do EU have plans or any other special policies to help address this issue? I know by ourselves has to be, but maybe a little bit of support and opportunity might do a lot. So thank you very much. That's my question.
Well, thank you for the question. Of course, the European Union is fully aware of the situation in Myanmar. We still maintain a delegation there in Yangon, so we have first-hand information about what's going on in that country. I'm the ambassador of the European Union to ASEAN, so my focus is to see how we can work with ASEAN from the European Union to find a peaceful resolution of that situation that we face in Myanmar. With ASEAN, the main instrument, the main platform to address the situation in Myanmar is the 5-point consensus. So naturally, the European Union supports the 5-point consensus. And we support, in particular, the efforts of the rotating chairmanship of ASEAN, which engages with the different parties involved in the situation in Myanmar through the Office of the Special Envoy. The European Union is one of the partners of ASEAN, which has its own special envoy. So our special envoy works with the special envoy of Laos, which is the country now exercising the chairmanship of ASEAN, and keep in very close contact to see how we can implement the 5-point consensus. Let me just insist on two different aspects of this 5-point consensus. One is the assistance we can provide to the people in Myanmar because of the military coup, which happened 3 years ago on the 1st of February. We stopped our development assistance in Myanmar, and now we focus very much on humanitarian assistance, so the immediate needs of the people. On the occasion of the adoption of a declaration on the 1st of February, on the third non-anniversary of the coup in Myanmar, we also announced a package of humanitarian assistance of 19 million euros. So we're among the most generous donors and largest donors of humanitarian assistance to Myanmar. And the second thing is the political efforts and the diplomatic work that we can support. And I think in this regard, it is important to keep engaging with Myanmar. This is the reason why we did not stop all of our projects in Myanmar. We still provide humanitarian assistance, but for example, when it comes to our Erasmus project, which allows student exchanges between the students of Southeast Asia and European universities, Myanmar students are still eligible to that. But I think it was important to remind everyone of the stance of the European Union on the situation in Myanmar and that was done through the adoption of European Union position, which was released on the 1st of February, and I would invite everyone interested in the position of the European Union on Myanmar to have a look at this joint position.
Okay, thank you, Pa. Marley Salsabil on Instagram says, nice to meet you, Mr. Ambassador.
Nice to meet you.
And there's another question from Indonesia, from Rahmat. What steps can be taken to ensure a seamless educational experience between ASEAN and Europe, thus ensuring parity in the levels of education attained?
Well, it's a complicated question, actually, because we spoke about culture and diversity in culture. There is also diversity in education. So from the European Union standpoint, there is a very strong integration of the higher education system, because the European Union started a long time ago. You know that the European Union started as the European Community in 1957, but even before that as the European Community of Coal and Steel in 1951. So we have a long history behind us. And there is this very strong understanding within the European project that we wanted to achieve the single market. So the single market is the free movement of goods, services, capitals, and workers. And it may sound simple, but actually it's quite complicated. If you want to have a free movement of workers, one of the requirements is that wherever you are within the European Union, your skills and diplomas and qualifications receive equal recognition. So to make sure that, I don't know, if you are trained as a carpenter, let's say in France, and you want to go and move and work in Poland, because this is the single market, free movement of workers. Well, your degrees, qualifications, skills, diplomas, and competence in France must be equally recognized in Poland. So this goes through the adoption and implementation of what we call mutual recognition agreements. So they exist between the 27 member states of the European Union. It contributes to harmonize the higher education system. But of course, it's not as advanced on the one hand within ASEAN. So there is not always mutual recognition agreements in place between different ASEAN member states. And certainly between the European Union and ASEAN, it is not so well developed. So, because it takes a lot of time to have these mutual recognition agreements for degrees delivered by the higher education system, I would nonetheless encourage everyone to take full advantage of the opportunities we offer for student exchanges, because it will always be an added value in your curriculum to have not only training and education and studies in one country, but in another country. If you pick well, and that should be one of the criteria actually for a selection of your universities, I would tend to encourage you to focus on dual degrees or joint degrees, degrees which receive equal recognition in the country of origin and in the country of exchange. Because actually, education is not just for the sake of education. The ultimate purpose is afterwards to get a job. And to get a job, you must have a recognition of the degree you've acquired, of the diploma you received in the country where you want to work.
Okay, and we have questions from Rida, two questions actually from Rida. Rida, do you want to ask your questions directly to the ambassador, or would you like me to read it to him? Rida, would you like to ask your questions directly? Okay, let me just read one of it first. It's Rida Dinda Fadila from Indonesia and from ASEAN Youth Organization Research Department Center. She's asking how can we create a collaborative program with the European Union?
Well, always possible to plug into one of our projects. So if you want to do anything with the European Union, usually it has to do with one, contacts, and two, funding. So contact, I guess if you are already in a university, you would have an office for international relation or something like that. And that's going to be your entry point to get the necessary contacts you need to have. And then again, it's not abstract. I mean, you don't want to create a collaborative project with the European Union as such. You would go for a specific university in a determined country. So once you have these contacts, afterwards, the point will be to see how you can get funding, because without funding, it's always difficult to do anything meaningful. So that's when we come into play with the initiatives and the projects that we manage, in particular Erasmus, which serves the purpose of encouraging and supporting not only student exchanges, in particular through scholarships, but also exchanges between university faculty members or joint programs between universities. So I would say get your contacts first, which means get your project up and running, and then look for funding, and then knock on the EU door, especially through our Erasmus Plus project.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, we only have 1 more minute, but we have 2 questions, so 2 of our last questions. From Giselle, hi, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for having this session. I would like to ask about YSB. Do you have any advice for me and other applicants on how we can successfully be chosen to be a member? And the second question is from Adriel, what's your favorite Indonesian food? I think those 2 can close our session today, but please.
Okay, so YSB, read the guidelines for application. There are some elements which are extremely easy to provide. Your passport, make sure that you are a citizen of one of the 10 ASEAN member states or Timor-Leste. We need reference letters as well, so get good reference letters. But the most important part of it is a letter of intent. A letter of intent has to set out your project, your ambition, your intention, what you can contribute to the European Union ASEAN strategic partnership. So focus on this letter of intent. Send us the best possible letter of intent. And then I've been in Indonesia for 6 months now. So I had a good opportunity to try Indonesian food. I would say my favorite so far is the chicken satay.
But actually, 1 more question, perhaps, if you don't mind. There's one from a Romanian student in University Malaya. And I wanted to ask about any advice you may have for EU students that is currently studying full-time in ASEAN and want to intern at the EU delegation or an embassy. What would be your suggestions?
You have to apply for the job. No, wait for an opening. Because if there is no position, it's useless to apply. I mean, we receive plenty of spontaneous applications, but at the end of the day, if there is no position for traineeship, it's useless to apply. So if you're in Malaysia, you need to apply at the university. Well, if you're in a university in Malaysia, you need to apply to the delegation in Malaysia. Because one of the requirements for internships or traineeship is to be a resident already. We do not, in Indonesia, at least, we do not take any intern or trainee from Europe who would need a visa. So you need to be already a resident in the country. And then when there is an opening and you're a resident, just monitor our offers and apply. We right now have a traineeship offering in my team at the mission of the European Union to ASEAN. So if you think you are qualified, please do apply. By the way, those are paid positions, so you are paid to intern.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Any last words to share with all of our participants across platforms?
No, just a reminder to follow me on my social media account if you want to know more about the European Union and ASEAN. I'm active on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And every week, usually on Sunday, I record a short video, which I call the highlights of my week, which tells you in 1 minute 30 or so what happened in the relationship between the European Union and ASEAN. So please do follow me on my social media account, and let's have another one of these Ask the Ambassador live session in the near future. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. See you next time.
Bye-bye.